It's the late 1960s, and America is obsessed with one thing: power. On every street, in every showroom, and on every drag strip, horsepower isn't just a number. It's a statement. Ford has its 429, Chrysler has its Hemi, and in the heart of Detroit, deep inside General Motors, a group of engineers is quietly working on something bigger. Something the world has never seen before. An engine so massive, so brutally powerful, that it will make even the muscle car kings tremble. It begins with a simple question asked inside Chevrolet's engineering division in 1969. How far can we push the big block? For years, Chevy's 396 and 427 engines have ruled the streets and the tracks. But the world is changing fast. Cars are getting heavier, competition fiercer. Chevrolet needs something new, a statement of dominance. And so, behind closed doors, a secret project takes shape. They call it the Mark IV 454, 454 cubic inches, 7.4 liters of pure, unapologetic muscle. The engineers know they're crossing a line. The 454 isn't designed to sip fuel or meet regulations. It's built for one purpose: to crush anything that dares to challenge it. When the first prototypes run on the dyno, the numbers are almost unbelievable. Over 450 horsepower, and torque so immense it twists test stands apart. Mechanics call it the earth mover. Even at idle, it feels alive, a deep, rolling thunder that shakes the floor. But building this beast is only half the story. The other half is the timing. Because just as Chevrolet perfects its monster, the world begins to turn against it. The US government starts cracking down on emissions. Insurance companies raise premiums for performance cars. Gasoline prices climb. And a new word enters America's vocabulary: regulation. Inside GM's headquarters, the tension is real. Executives worry that the 454 is too much, too loud, too politically dangerous. Some call it a dinosaur. Others call it a liability. But the engineers refuse to back down. They argue that this is Chevrolet's legacy, a symbol of everything the brand stands for: strength, confidence, rebellion. And so, despite the warnings, they green-light it. The first 454 roars to life inside the 1970 Chevrolet Chevelle SS. It's marketed simply, brutally, honestly, the most powerful muscle car ever built. On the road, it's a monster. It devours quarter miles, shreds tires, and humbles Ferraris. Magazines call it the king of the street. Drivers call it the animal. Next comes the Corvette LS6, the ultimate expression of American arrogance. 454 cubic inches, 450 horsepower. A car so powerful that GM engineers warn buyers to handle it with respect, or don't handle it at all. And yet, behind the glory, storm clouds gather. In Washington, politicians are starting to panic. The oil crisis is on the horizon. Emissions standards tighten every year. Safety laws are piling up. To bureaucrats, engines like the 454 aren't symbols of freedom. They're symbols of waste. And to insurance companies, they're a nightmare. By 1971, the pressure becomes unbearable. New fuel regulations force GM to lower compression ratios. Power drops overnight. From 450 horsepower to barely 300, the muscle car era begins to suffocate. Inside GM's design labs, morale collapses. Engineers who once built legends are now ordered to make compromises. Lighter pistons, smaller carbs, weaker timing. The 454, once a monster, is neutered. The people who built it watch helplessly as the government, insurance, and economics conspire to end their creation. But the engine itself refuses to die quietly. Even in its detuned form, it's still unmatched in torque, still able to tow, to pull, to dominate. It finds new life not in Chevelles or Corvettes, but in trucks, heavy, strong, unbothered by politics. The engineers smile. The beast may have been exiled from the streets, but it's not gone. It's hiding, waiting, because someday, someone inside GM will be bold enough to bring it back. And when that day comes, the 454 will return, not in a sports car, but in something even more rebellious. A blacked-out, tire-smoking pickup truck that would make Washington furious. But that's another chapter. By 1973, America wakes up to a new reality. The era of cheap fuel is over. Long lines stretch outside gas stations. Prices skyrocket. Politicians talk about energy, conservation, and efficiency. For the first time in decades, power becomes a dirty word. Inside General Motors, panic sets in. The same company that once bragged about more cubic inches, more horsepower, is now under pressure from every direction. Washington, the EPA, environmental activists, and consumers who can no longer afford to fill their tanks. The government wants smaller engines, cleaner exhaust, fewer emissions. But GM's engineers want something else: freedom. Deep inside the company's powertrain division, a silent war begins. On one side, bureaucrats and executives worried about public image, lawsuits and profit margins. On the other, the old guard, men who built engines like the 454, the 427, and the 396. The ones who believe that engineering should serve passion, not politics. To them, horsepower isn't the enemy, it's identity. But the numbers are brutal. New federal laws demand lower compression ratios, catalytic converters, and reduced displacement. Engineers who once tuned engines for power are now forced to strangle them for emissions. A 454 that once made 450 horsepower now struggles to make 250, then 230, then 210. The detuning feels like mutilation. To many inside GM, it's not progress, it's surrender. Customers feel it too. The cars still look powerful, but they no longer feel it. The glory days of big blocks fade fast. Chevy Chevelles El Caminos, and Corvettes still wear the 454 badge. But the magic is gone. Meanwhile, in garages and backyards across America, something else begins to stir: a rebellion. Mechanics, racers, and street builders refuse to accept the government's new rules. They start rebuilding the 454s back to their former glory: high compression, pistons, big cams, open exhausts. They call it taking the power back. These are the underground engineers, men who don't care about EPA stickers or federal fines. To them, the 454 isn't just an engine, it's resistance. They swap them into everything: trucks, muscle cars, boats, dragsters. A 454 under the hood becomes a badge of defiance, a middle finger to bureaucracy. In 1975, one underground mechanic in California says it best: "They can regulate the factory, but they can't regulate my garage." Across the country, the legend grows. In Texas, street racers build 454-powered Novas that terrorize highways. In Michigan, speed shops rebuild big blocks by the thousands. The more the government tries to kill them, the stronger their following becomes. But inside GM, the pressure only tightens. By the late 70s, the 454's days in cars are numbered. Federal regulations and oil prices make it impossible to keep producing big block performance vehicles. The monster is officially dead, and at least on paper. Yet once again, the beast finds a new home. The engineers, unwilling to let it die completely, adapt the 454 for heavy-duty trucks, Chevys and GMCs built for hauling, towing, and real work. The same power that once ruled the drag strip now rules construction sites, farms, and race trailers. The big block survives, not as a racer, but as a worker. To most people, it looks like GM gave up. But those who know better. The 454 isn't gone. It's waiting for its next evolution, because power never really disappears. It just hides until someone brave enough brings it back. And that someone would arrive in 1990 with a black pickup, red stripes, and an idea so audacious that it would make politicians furious and car lovers weep with joy: the Chevrolet 454 SS. It's 1989 and the American car market has lost its soul. The muscle cars are gone, buried under emissions laws and economic fear. The roads are quiet now, too quiet. Engines whisper instead of roar. Style has replaced substance. And for a generation that grew up with the thunder of big blocks, it feels like the fire has gone out. Inside General Motors, there are still a few men who remember. They remember the smell of burnt rubber, the nights on Woodward Avenue, the sound of the LS6 Chevelle shaking windows at idle. They remember the 454. And quietly they start to dream. What if, they wonder, we brought it back? Not as a car, not as a racer, but as something so unexpected the government wouldn't even notice until it was too late. The idea seems crazy. Pickup trucks are for work, tools, not toys. But that's what makes it brilliant. Trucks aren't under the same scrutiny as sports cars. They can still be powerful, still be raw. And in 1990, GM gives the green light to one of the most audacious projects in its history. A full-size Chevy truck, rear-wheel drive, no towing package, no pretense, just a 7.4-liter V8 stuffed under the hood. The Chevrolet 454 SS. When it debuts, the automotive world is stunned. On the outside, it's deceptively simple. black paint, red pinstripes, steel wheels, and a single bold badge, 454 SS. But under that clean body lies the same big block heart that once powered Corvettes and Chevelle. GM calls it performance for people who work hard, but enthusiasts know better. This isn't about work. It's about rebellion. The specs are outrageous for the time. 230 horsepower, 385 pound-feet of torque, and a sound that makes windows rattle. It runs a quarter mile in 15 seconds, faster than many so-called sports cars of its day. It's pure, unapologetic muscle, wearing a pickup's disguise. Car magazines call it the return of the bad old days. Government critics call it irresponsible. Truck lovers call it perfect. Because in an age of downsizing and conformity, the 454 SS feels like a middle finger to the establishment. A truck that exists not because the world needs it, but because someone at GM decided the world deserves it. Production begins quietly in 1990. The truck is hand-built in limited numbers, every one of them painted onyx black, with a red interior and subtle SS badging. It doesn't advertise power, it radiates it. On the streets, it turns heads everywhere. It's loud, it's bold, it's unnecessary. And people love it for exactly those reasons. Inside GM, executives are nervous. The EPA watches closely. Insurance companies frown, but sales keep coming. The truck becomes a cult hit overnight. Owners modify them with open exhausts, carb upgrades, and cam kits. The 454 SS starts showing up at drag strips, not hauling cargo, but humiliating Mustangs and imports. For car lovers who lived through the muscle car era, the 454 SS feels like revenge, a time machine back to when power meant freedom. And the government? They can't quite figure it out. It's not a sports car. It's a truck. How do you ban a pickup? For 3 glorious years, the 454 SS rules America's back roads. It's raw, it's heavy, it's loud, and it reminds an entire generation that the spirit of muscle never truly died. It just put on work boots. But even legends can't escape time. By 1993, new emissions laws and changing tastes seal its fate. GM kills the 454 SS quietly, without ceremony. No farewell edition, no press release, just silence. Yet the legend doesn't end there, because the people who bought those trucks never stopped driving them. And what GM built as a limited experiment becomes something far greater, a symbol of resistance, an echo of everything Detroit once stood for. The 454 SS isn't just a truck, it's a protest on wheels. A reminder that some engines aren't built for compliance. They're built for defiance. By 1994, the thunder fades again. The Chevy 454 SS is gone. The big block era, for the second time, ends not with an explosion but with a whisper. Regulations, new technology, and the rise of compact efficiency seal its fate. In an age of digital dashboards and plastic engines, the idea of a 7-liter monster feels like madness. But the madness never really dies. It just hides in garages, in barns, and in the memories of those who lived through it. Through the late 1990s, the world moves on. SUVs replace muscle cars. Trucks become quieter, cleaner, safer. But under the surface, a quiet rebellion keeps growing. Enthusiasts refuse to let go. They track down old 454 SS trucks, rebuild them, restore them, race them. They polish the chrome, tune the carburetors, and bring the old iron back to life. And when those engines start again, when that deep, rolling rumble fills the air, people turn their heads. Because there's nothing else like it. The 454's torque isn't just power. It's presence. It's a heartbeat that echoes through the pavement and through history. For many, driving one isn't about speed. It's about connection. To a time when cars were simple, dangerous, and alive. By the 2000s, the legend transforms. Restomods emerge. Modern suspensions, fuel injection, digital gauges, all wrapped around the same brutal old heart. Builders in California, Texas, and Florida start reviving 454 SS trucks, giving them second lives on streets filled with hybrids and imports. Each build becomes a statement, a refusal to forget what America once built. Then something unexpected happens. Younger generations, born long after the muscle era, start discovering the 454 SS online. Videos, forums, and restoration channels turn it into an icon again. To them, it's not nostalgia, it's rebellion reborn. They see a black truck with red stripes and chrome badges, and they feel what their fathers felt: defiance. Car shows from Texas to Michigan begin filling with 454 SS trucks again, some restored to factory perfection, others built into 700 horsepower, monsters that would terrify. 1990s engineers. Each one tells the same story. You can regulate, you can restrict, but you can never erase passion. And in that sense, the 454 SS becomes more than a vehicle. It becomes a time capsule, a symbol of what happens when engineers build from the heart, not the rule book. The government saw it as wasteful. The public saw it as reckless. But enthusiasts saw something else: freedom. And freedom, like fire, never goes out completely. Today, decades later, the 454's DNA still runs through Chevrolet's veins. Every modern V8, every performance Silverado, every Corvette Z06 owes something to that defiant lineage. But the 454 remains unique. It was never built to be efficient or polite. It was built to be felt. When you turn the key and that engine roars to life, it's not just combustion. It's history igniting. It's the echo of a time when machines were raw, people were daring, and corporations still took risks just to make something that mattered. For some, the 454 SS is a relic of excess. For others, it's proof that America once built without fear. The truth is somewhere in between. Because in the end, the 454 SS wasn't just a truck. It was a statement that even when the world changes, when regulations tighten, when the noise fades, there will always be those who refuse to let power die. And as long as one of those black trucks still rumbles down an empty road at sunset, the government's defeat will echo through every thunderous heartbeat of that unstoppable engine. The beast lives on,